Hello. Welcome to Australian Citizenship Class on YouTube. Episode 23. Today's episode is taken from Part 3 of Australian Citizenship, Our Common Bond. We are going to have a look at how is the power of government controlled on page 26. But first, do you remember in episode 15 when we talked about the difference between a democracy and a dictatorship? In a democracy, citizens vote for people to represent their views in Parliament. As you prepare to become a citizen and voter in Australia, it's good to think about what is most important to you and how you want your views to be represented in Parliament. How much do you know about the major political parties in Australia and what they say and do in Parliament? As a citizen, it will be important to make your vote count and make sure that the people and parties you vote for reflect your own values and goals for society. One way of finding out which Australian political party best aligns with your beliefs and values is to use the Vote Compass tool. This online quiz asks you a series of questions about your opinion of many different topics. You click on the answer that best reflects your view. Anyone can take the quiz on Vote Compass. It's free. You don't have to sign up for anything, and your identity is confidential. It's a good way to learn about topics that are important to Australians. Practice your English and get a better idea of what different political parties might discuss to earn your vote in the next election. Once you've completed all the questions, you'll see which political party best aligns with your values and beliefs. You can then do more research about the parties that interest you the most. Most political parties have a website with information about what they believe is most important for Australia. Whenever you're considering who to vote for, it's important to ask questions such as, how do they plan on making this happen? And who would benefit from these policies? Being free to vote and choose who makes decisions on our behalf in Parliament is an important part of democracy. Another important part of Australian democracy is the principle that the power to make and manage laws should be shared between different groups to avoid one group having all the power. The Australian Constitution divides the power of government between the legislative power, which is the Parliament, the executive power, for example, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, which is a group of top-level members of the Australian government, and judicial powers, judges in federal court or the High Court of Australia. To stop one person or one group from holding all the power. Legislative power. Legislative power is the power to make laws. Parliament has the power to make and change the laws in Australia. Parliament is made up of representatives who are elected by the people of Australia. Executive power. Executive power is the power to put the laws into practice. The executive includes the Prime Minister, Australian government ministers, and the Governor-General. The executive power carries out laws and puts them into action through government agencies. Ministers are responsible for government departments. The executive power must be part of and responsible to the Parliament. Judicial power. Judges have the power to interpret and apply the law. Courts and judges are independent of Parliament and government. These powers are written into the Australian Constitution. Let's look at an example of how the separation of powers might work. We know that the legislative power, or Parliament's, job is to make laws. Say the Parliament debates and passes a new bill, which becomes a law about immigration. The executive power is responsible for putting the new immigration law into action. The government department that looks after immigration, led by a minister, creates regulations to detail how the law will be put into place. They may need to write new instructions on the government's immigration website, change the questions on Australian visa application forms, inform Home Affairs staff, immigration lawyers, and current applicants of the changes, etc. The judicial power has the power to interpret the law and make judgments on legal disputes. If there is a dispute about whether the new immigration law has been followed, or if the law conflicts with the Constitution, the High Court or another federal court can make a judgment on the matter. Each power keeps a check on the actions of the others, preventing any single group from having too much power. Let's say the key words together. Legislative power. Parliament makes laws. Executive power puts laws into practice. Judicial power interprets and applies the law. Let's have a look at a practice test question. Which power of government has the power to put law into action? A. Legislative power. B. Executive power. Or C. Judicial power. We know that the legislative power, or Parliament, has the power to make and change laws, so A is not the correct answer. We know that the judicial power has the power to make judgments on law, so C is not the correct answer. The executive power has the power to put law into action through government agencies, so B is the correct answer to this question. That's it for today's episode. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments section. I'll do my best to help in any way I can. If you found this video helpful, please click on like and subscribe to help me grow this channel. This will also help you see when new episodes are ready to watch. See you in the next episode.